Our Lord uses parables quite a bit to explain heavenly realities to us. He is the master teacher, always accommodating his lesson to his audience's needs and abilities. And we see this frequently in the Gospels. Like when Jesus compares the kingdom of heaven to a mustard seed. The mustard seed is the smallest of seeds, and yet, as our Lord said, when it is fully grown, the birds of the air can take shelter in its branches. You know, sometimes I don't think we really appreciate what magnificent truths God is revealing to us in his parables. Imagine if one of the saints in heaven or an angel came here right now and stood in front of us and said, "This is what the kingdom of heaven is like." Wouldn't we hold our breath so as not to make any noise so we could hear exactly what they had to say? We wouldn't want to miss a single word. Well, in that parable, Jesus himself tells us that the kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed. So you and I should pay close attention, for our Lord is letting us in on a secret, as it were. And that secret is we need to think small. The smaller, the better. But that's kind of odd, isn't it? So often we hear that we need to think big, name it and claim it. That's how we should pray. That's how we should live. So says any number of so-called health and wealth preachers and evangelists. Well, we would do better to listen to the real prophets instead, perhaps one of whom our Lord himself said was more than a prophet, and of which Jesus also said, "Of those born of women, none was greater." Our Lord, of course, was speaking of John the Baptist. And John the Baptist spoke words that epitomize the message of our Lord's parable. He must increase, I must decrease. Therefore, the message for us today is to think small. That is, to think about how weak we really are, about how our abilities fall so short of the mark. Okay, Deacon, you might say that's easy enough, but what are you up to here? Are you trying to heap gloom, despair, and agony on me? Why not add some deep, dark depression and excessive misery, as the sage philosophers of hee-haw would say? On the contrary, of course our Lord doesn't want us to be depressed, but rather joyful. We're his children. But the fact is, we do need to acknowledge our weakness. I mean, truly acknowledge it. Because therein lies our strength. Therein lies our power. Seems counterintuitive, doesn't it? To really do something for God, it would seem we need to be strong and powerful, a mighty prophet, a miracle worker, a force to be reckoned with. But let's think about what I just said. I said to really do something for God. In that, I've already started out wrong, for truly we cannot do anything for God, but rather, when we acknowledge our weakness, when we acknowledge our total dependence on God, when we give back to him what he has already given to us by grace, then he can begin to work through us. St. Paul said that in weakness, power is made perfect. These words were meant for you and me. Put another way, in our weakness, God's power is made perfect. When we are weak, it is then God is strong, for it's only then that he is able to work through us. It's only the smallest of seeds that grow into the largest of plants that the birds of the air can take shelter in. When we decrease, he can increase. You know, Jesus also said that if our faith was the size of a mustard seed, we could move mountains. Is it a coincidence that he used the same metaphor as in the parable of the mustard seed itself? I don't think so. Maybe our mustard seed, maybe our faith is the size of a mustard seed, but misdirected, that is. Maybe our mustard seed-sized faith, such as it is in ourselves rather than in God. Maybe if we actually put our faith in God, then through us he would move mountains. So instead of thinking big, we need to think small. We need to be small. We need to decrease so our Lord can increase. And if we really did that, then that really would be a big deal.